Hello students, today I'm going to be giving you your video assignment number 3, and in units 3 and 4 what you're being asked to do for your project is to write a literary analysis. And because you're being asked to write a literary analysis, I wanted to give you some direct instruction today on writing analytically so that you really understand what's being asked of you. And so essentially what you're doing when you are writing analytically is you are using textual evidence to reason. So it's very similar to an argumentative essay, but it specifically has to do with analyzing and thinking about and parsing through literature itself. So now, analytical writing is writing that uses analysis. And so that analysis is where you're thinking, you're using evidence to come up with reasoning, you're trying to figure out what the author was intending or what the author was doing. In your case, what you're doing is you're comparing two different short stories, two different works of literature, The Telltale Heart and The Yellow Wallpaper, and you are thinking about what is similar about those two stories and what is different. And so you're analyzing the differences and the similarities. To write analytically in general, you're going to need 3 things. You're going to need a claim or a thesis statement. Your strong mind uses both to describe the same thing. 2, you're going to need textual evidence. So that is evidence or data that comes from a text that you're using to support your claim. And then you're also going to need to just use some logic to draw out and explain what you got from your textual evidence. So a claim or a thesis statement is essentially, the most basic part of it, a debatable statement with all of your main ideas. And so in order to be debatable, that means it needs to be arguable. It can't just be something like, the sky is blue on a clear day. Yes, of course it's blue. We all know that. That's a fact. That is not a debatable statement. But saying something like let's say the Broncos are an excellent team because of A, B, and C, that would be a debatable statement because it's something that someone else can argue, no, that's not true. So for an example of that, I gave you one from The Crucible. The characters of The Crucible are created to mimic people because they are emotional, flawed, and variable, which makes them relatable to the reader. So if you notice here, they are multiple different things. I say they are emotional, flawed, and variable. So there's a couple different parts here to our claim. The first part, we say the characters are created to mimic people. Now that's debatable because someone else could say, no, those characters are actually created for a different purpose. Then I have a because statement. My because statement is the signal that the because statement is the signal of what I'm going to explain, the reasons why that I'm going to explain in my paper. And then I have 3 of them: emotional, flawed, and variable. Now, this is really a nice way to structure your paper because once you have this claim, you have all of your main ideas. And so that means in paragraph 1, I'm going to be talking about how they are emotional. In paragraph 2, I'm going to be talking about how they're flawed. In paragraph 3, I'm going to be talking about how they're variable. And then at the end here, I say which makes them relatable to the reader. And this is just a little bit of information where I'm telling the so what. Why do we care about this? Well, we care about this because we're trying to figure out what is it that the author's doing in the text. So real quick here, we've got the title of the work, we have a debatable statement, we have a because statement, and then we have the 3 things that we're going to be writing about within our story. Now, we also have textual evidence, and textual evidence is things that come from our text that can prove our point. So quotes or paraphrase. So quote or paraphrase that supports your point. Quotes, we all know what that is. It's directly the words taken from your text. And paraphrase is when you put those words into your own words. Maybe you summarize a whole scene in a couple sentences and you still provide a citation, an in-text citation to say, hey, I got this information from the text. Here we see a quote here. This is how I would structure it. So I would have some information. I would have a sentence, a comma, a sentence to introduce my quote, a comma, parentheses, not parentheses, quotation marks. And then we have the quote more quotation marks, and then we have an in-text citation here, which is the last name and a page number. So this is how you're going to be formatting your textual evidence. And once again, you're needing this textual evidence is going to be things that actually support your point. You want to steer away from just putting in random quotes. Okay, the last thing you're going to need is you're going to need some logic. So using logic means that you will be able to do the analysis portion. You're going to explain how the textual evidence proves your claim. Now, the best way to show this logic is to finish up with a logic piece in action. So here we have our claim. In the crucible, it is clear that the characters resemble people because they are variable. Now, if you notice, this looks a little bit shorter than the first one, and that's because now in my actual paper, I'm taking that claim, making it into a topic sentence. So I'm only going to talk about one thing. Here I'm talking about how the characters are variable. Then I have my quote. This is seen when Paris talks to Goody Ann. Anne, Tituba knows how to speak to the dead. Mr. Paris. Mr. Oh, I'm sorry. Paris, Goody Ann, it is a formidable sin to conjure the dead. So here I have, what am I proving? I'm proving that the characters are variable, and then I have this quote. Now I need to explain or analyze why this quote would prove my point. In the passage, Anne says that Tituba brings up spirits, and Paris is very upset. This proves that the characters are variable because some are more religious than others. So what I'm doing is I'm pointing out, we can tell from this quote that one of these characters is doing some kind of black magic type stuff. And the other character is very angry about that. And that shows a contrast between the two characters. And so that's what I need to show, is that my quote is showing contrast between the characters, because what I was wanting to prove is that they are variable. And so what you're doing with these three parts is you are making a claim, you're giving some evidence of why that would be true, and then you're explaining how those two things are linked together. And so this is really what you're going to be doing throughout your essay multiple times, and then doing it in each paragraph. And then by the time you get to the end, you'll have proved all of the points that you came up with for your claim. I hope that helps. Please reach out. I'll include the slide, and I'll also include a further set of slides here that explain it in even more detail if you need a little bit more help as we get further along into this project.